Good afternoon, Free Enterprise fans. Welcome to Randomania 2, where we have got Game 3 between a Stone Dingley and BadKarma. This will decide who moves on and whose tournament is going to end here today. I am so happy to be here with Dathis doing the restream, Reckless Charlie handling the tracking, and I am excited to what degree? Well, the nth degree, because my co-commentator is Nth. Nth, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. I am really excited for this race because I don't think I've actually seen a Cecil start on these flags before. And, you know, it's interesting seeing the sort of like sea hero that turns into just like vanilla agility with the little bit of a twist on Mount Ordeals. And it's interesting to see how differently people will approach the seed on that. I think it'll obviously depend on who the other starting character is, but this is a really interesting start.
Yeah, exactly. It brings back a lot of memories of some of these earlier tournaments we had before Vanilla Agility became an option in the flag set, where you had this level 42 being the magic number for Cecil, right around that area where you wanted to keep his agility at. I also really just like early Cecil in general, just because of how versatile he can be, especially if the runners are forced down a hook route. Getting to rely on those cover strats that he has as a paladin, both auto-covering critical HP characters and being able to manually cover characters. If you get some good armor for him early, that can really help you carry against some physical heavy fights.
Definitely. And also speaking of that early game, there's also that really big question of at what point in time do you take on Mount Ordeals? Because if you have a Cecil, you assume that no one's going to fade Ordeals completely in this seed. And so whether or not you sort of do the vanilla early game of Antlion, Fabul, sort of follow the canon route, or if you skip one or the other and then head to Mount Ordeals, could be another interesting possible choice for our runners today.
Yeah, precisely. Sort of going back in time, like we did, like I mentioned earlier, it's hard to believe that was actually a thing that people would do when the objective of the game was to just find the crystal. Ordeals would often get faded, since Cecil was largely just seen as an agility anchor, and Ordeals was really just a lot to go through for one check, but that is not the case in the age of objectives. We've got to find both Antlion and the Wyvern as objectives on there for boss hunts, and plus the key item that Ordeals gives. That just is too much value to be leaving on the table in Ordeals.
Definitely. Double boss hunt is always interesting as far as objectives go too, because it always creates those situations where you're wondering if something strange might be hard required. It's like, everyone jokes about the Wyvern, Antlion, Giant being required, but at the same time, one of these days, if we keep joking about it, it will happen.
Exactly. Other thing on there is complete the sewer key, unlock the sewer rather, with the Baron key. That is always a really interesting objective, because all that requires is you to find the Baron key and go tap that door. But depending on where you're sitting objective-wise, there's always the incentive to go in there and actually complete Baron Castle. There's going to be 3 bosses available through that key item. One you'll get a hint at through the opening. The other 2 you'll have to discover. So based on where we are when we find that Baron key, actually going through Baron Castle might be optional.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Baron Castle has had a much lower priority in this tournament too. Not having K Summon on has been such a nerf to wanting to go in there, because you're having to do those 2 bosses for 1 check. You don't get that second check for that 3rd boss in any way. Really, it only just becomes part of the boss hunt. And so it'll be interesting to see if, our runners get Baron Key, if they'll just sort of like hold on to it for a very long time, and then when it's time to go into full go mode, just go quickly tap the door and then keep running.
Yep, and speaking of running, our runners are off to the races here as we have started, and our companion character is going to be Rosa. We have a power couple here today.
We do, and we also have a spoon, so unfortunately no key item that gives us any immediate progress. Really just a nice dart for Edge, since this is not a flag set with an equipable spoon for Edward, so it's kind of going to be just that standard early game based off of that as well.
Yeah, a runner's going to definitely be wanting to look for some sort of damage here. Dark Knight Cecil really cannot output much in the way of damage unless you're able to find that Black Sword, and even then you're a little bit limited. You're more relying on those swoon procs. Rosa, of course, a fantastic character, but you got to find a good bow, some good arrows, and maybe a heroin robe to really get her damage up to speed. So you might see a little bit more looting here, depending on who the character on Hobbs is.
Yeah, I was just about to say before BadKarma flew over there, I wouldn't be surprised if one runner or the other heads straight for Castle Evelyn, and it looks like BadKarma's decided to do that. Gonna go check all of these potential good prizes out of it. So far, not too much interesting out of the Watery Pass check over on Stone Dingley's side. Really just the Medusa arrows that are particularly exciting there so far.
Yeah, there was, I believe, some crystal armor as well, which, while a fantastic piece of kit for Cecil, is usually more exciting because of the amount of money that it gets, because even though it's got huge defense, it does have that nasty side effect about making you immune to Berserk, which is usually not what you want out of a melee fighter. But definitely good to keep in your inventory if you don't immediately need the money. We were talking about cover strats for Cecil earlier. That is a really great way to get Cecil's defense through the roof if you want to use him as a tank.
Absolutely, and we just got a piece of equipment pulled over from Castle Evelyn up at the top on the west tower on BadKarma's side. Once he gets that Cecil upgraded, did find a poison axe up there, which is a good start and can be very useful later as well. Be very good for carrying him through that mid game once he gets through Mount Ordeals.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very poor accuracy on that axe, but something you can mitigate a good bit by keeping Cecil in that middle slot, which of course increases character's accuracy, which directly relates to more damage.
Definitely. It's almost a bit unfortunate that he came here, because as our restreamer Dath has just pointed out in chat, that poison axe, very useful for getting through these trap chests in Castle Evelyn, so he might come back here later knowing he has that. But it's almost that little bit unfortunate that he pulled it now as opposed to later, when he might already have had Paladin Cecil and be tempted to just take them now.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Trap chests are so useful when you have a Cecil in your party, because there's so many high tier weapons that Cecil can really utilize to turn him into an extremely powerful carry for your team. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That axe is very useful against these fights. That, if you can't find something good for Cecil, might be coming back here. Ooh, speaking of useful, there's an ogre axe for sale over on Stone Dingley's side. I believe that's up in Troya.
I believe so as well, and it's interesting that he checked Troya this early, because I don't know what would incentivize going up here outside of just looking at what these shops have. So that was an interesting risk taking to come up here and look for that and actually just land on it right away.
Yeah, it might have been a case of, well, I've got this crystal armor. I've got a huge windfall of gil here. Let's see if these stores are going to pay off. And yeah, that is not something that we're going to be able to immediately utilize here for Cecil, but that is screaming, get to Ordeals as quickly as possible, because you want this in Cecil's hands.
Definitely, and it's always good to have that bit of early game, push too. And I think that's going to be something that might incentivize, if they feel strong enough, maybe not bothering with Fabul right away, or not bothering with Antlion right away, and just trying to see if they can sneak through Ordeals with a little bit lower of levels than they might otherwise go for by doing the sort of cannon route.
Yeah, right, you are. I would love to see a Hobbs check here at some point, see if we can get a character that can maybe help carry this team a little bit more, even if it's just something like a Sid or a Yang for that HP pool. We've gotten at least one Firebomb I see on BadKarma screen. Getting one of those multi-target fights with an HP-based elemental attack can really be helpful on Mount Ordeals to get through.
Yeah, and one thing I just saw on Stone Dingley's side, as far as getting that Rosa online goes, I didn't notice it when BadKarma was looting. There's also samurai arrows available in that Castle Evelyn chests up in the sort of east-west tower there. So that's a good start at getting that Rosa online. Those are pretty solid arrows. They're not the best arrows, but they're pretty strong.
Yes, indeed. And also an hourglass too. That's big because our runners do start with a siren on this flag set. An hourglass 2 plus a siren is basically your pick of any one grind fight that you want to get taken care of. One that immediately comes to mind are those gold dragons on the moon. If we get a darkness crystal either earlier in the mid game, going up there and popping that could be a huge amount of experience and money.
Yeah, another thing that's interesting that I just saw over in the Kaipo shop on BadKarma's side is there's a dwarf axe, which if you wanted to try and mess with Cecil's agility for whatever reason, which I don't think any of our runners will do because, you know, Paladin Cecil is Paladin Cecil and you don't need agility if you're strong enough. But it is interesting to see that sort of agility changing equipment early on, and if they get like a cane or a Sid later, it might be worth going back and picking that up for long road glitch if you happen to be able to route it in along the way.
Yeah, well, I mentioned maybe getting a high HP character on Hobbs. Well, never mind. That's it. That's Edward. That's quite the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a character with HP, but I don't think that counts in this case.
So yes, looks like it's going to have to be Dark Knight Cecil and Rosa carrying things on their own here, which is going to make some of these early fights very interesting. Probably going to have to rely on picking up some consumables to really get through here.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting seeing exactly how much looting and shopping our runners are doing here, because again, you know, they need equipment for these two characters to go online, and well, there's an Elven Bow. If you need something to help get that Rose online, Elven Bow plus Samurai Arrows is a pretty good combination. But it is interesting that we're, 7 minutes in and no one has even started on any of the actual key item checks yet.
And as you say that, it looks like we're making our first play here. Stone Dingley is heading over to Antlion Cave. 1,000 HP on this boss, so pretty low. Usually a good first boss to check for most players. Should be able to get through with the items that they've looted so far.
Well, and there's a black sword for that Dark Knight Cecil as well, so that's a good little tiny early bonus there to help along the way.
Ooh, and a silk web as well. Not immediately useful, but always a load off of your shoulders to know that you've got that in your inventory going into the Zeromus fight. That will put 2 layers of slow on Z, making him much more manageable, and trigger that initial counter nuke to get his magic power nerfed for the first Big Bang. So very, very good item for the long game.
Definitely, and a Leviathan down here also means that we're not going to have that Leviathan at an inconvenient location problem later, so it's nice to get one of these potentially problematic bosses out of the way early and just not have to deal with it when it gets to a better location down the line.
Yeah, right you are, and you can kind of see right here why our runners were kind of hesitant to get into any boss fights here, even with his best weapon. Cecil only hitting for about 100 damage here. So, 10 hits from him alone just to get through this boss. Rose is helping a good bit as well. But yeah, not exactly a steamroll team here for these early fights.
Definitely does get through it, and we'll end up seeing what comes out of this Antlion Cave. But this Antlion Cave's already paid off, no matter what this key item is, just from that silk web alone. It is just a bandana, so, at least they got the silk web along the way.
Yeah, and bandana, not a horrible pickup, certainly not progression, but Cecil's going to enjoy that when he becomes a paladin.
Definitely, it's always good to have that little bit of an extra strength boost along the way, especially early on when it's kind of like not as important necessarily to have that defense, because sometimes the best defense is just taking turns out of the fight.
Yeah, right you are. I'll be very interested to see where Dingley goes next, if it's going to be over to Fabul, or yeah, it looks like that is going to be the case.
Yeah, I gotta feel that after how slow this Leviathan fight has been for both runners, that both of them probably want a little bit more experience and a bit more looting before they start heading over to Ordeals. I don't know if this might be a situation in which you might have wanted to have peaked the Baron in character and seen if the boss fight, at least in the first spot, was easy and if you might be able to sneak that. But I think, definitely ordeals after this is probably going to be the play.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that neither of our runners peaked Baron, and that traditional Baron opening has really kind of fallen out of favor in this tournament. We don't really see it as much as we used to. Oh, there's a free fight.
It is a free fight, but it's one of those things where it's nice to not have to, deal with your low damage right now, but at the same time, it's like the dream as a runner, I feel, is King and Queen Eblin sitting in Cave Bahamut. So at this point, it's like, yeah, I guess you'll take this. I guess it will help, but does this affect your concerns for later?
Right, you are. Yeah, it's one of those great short-term things. Fantastic. We can get some progression and move on, but long-term, it's like, would like this in a more friendly position.
Definitely, but actually just still managing to take the king down before the rest of the script happens, so I was almost a bit worried about that with how low the damage had been in Antlion. We would just have to be actually waiting for the cutscene to go off.
Yeah, and it's very heads-up play and knowing the game there for a Stone Dingley, knowing if you take the king down, the queen still will trigger her script to just go down, but you won't have to sit through the entirety of the cutscene with the music changing and the fade out. And just a crystal shield. That is, where are our key items?
Well, our key items right now are giving you more and more pieces that you can equip to your Cecil. So now
true.
We've got a bandana, we've got a crystal shield. I assume we'll get up Mount Ordeals and we'll get a Zeus gauntlet for that, and then we'll probably get a hook at Baronin or something.
Yeah, this is very much a man. As soon as we can get through Ordeals, this seed is going to open up. And here's our Baron check here. Stone Dingley heading right over there after Fabul.
Yeah, I guess you could also equip that bandana to Rosa right now as he's doing, so that is an option that for some reason I didn't think of until right this moment.
Yeah, might as well. She's going to be the bulk of your physical damage here until Cecil comes online, so give her every advantage she can get. That is Rydia with the Dark Imps.
That Dark Imp fight should be pretty easy. The real question is what's lurking in the second spot here.
Yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate that this is the first fight just because they're all going to get a punch in here, and that's going to be less HP that you're going to have going into that really dangerous second fight. Rosa able to mitigate that a good bit here, though, with that Cure 2. Very nice.
Definitely. It really is about to come down to just seeing what is behind this last imp here, because if we get a good boss here, then this is nice. And it is a Baigen. I'm not really sure if that's what you want to see here. Yeah, Dingley is just resetting out immediately.
Not even gonna try that. Yeah, Baigen is just a really nasty fight no matter where you find him. Just because he can hit you physically, he can hit you with those vampires, he puts wall up, arms constantly regenerating. Just it is a very damaging fight, and not something that you're really equipped to deal with right now.
Yeah, and speaking of non-sword Cecil weapons, by the way, which has kind of been the theme of this seed so far, outside of getting the other equipment from the key item checks, I did notice BadKarma looting here in Fabul did pick up a rune axe from one of those chests. And I believe Dingley opened those chests as well, so he should also have it, but that's another nice thing to have for when they get that Paladin Cecil online. Yeah,
that juicy bonus against mage-type enemies can be very useful against Magus Sisters, who, well, speak of the devil, guess we won't be able to use that against the Magus Sisters, because here they are on Mount Ordeals.
All right, now let's get Asura at the back attack spot, and we'll have, a good portion of the big mage bosses out of the way right away.
Yeah, I believe did pick up that Elven Bow for Rosa, though, which also has that similar mage slaying property. As you can see, the casual 1200 damage against Cindy shouldn't be a problem here at all. Oh, well, Rosa's charms, that might be a problem.
Yeah, and the damage is good enough right at this moment that he was able to just basically immediately take Mindy out as well. So the Maga Sisters themselves weren't posing any threat at that point. Really, only Rosa was Rosa's the MVP for the enemy team in this particular fight.
Heals on, we might see. No, he's going to take the safety save. Okay, I thought with the healing there, we might just swag go into the second fight, but no, taking the time to save. And it's Turtle.
Is that a problem here? I don't remember if that's a problem here or not.
I think, with the Thor rages and, the amount of damage that Rose is putting out, this should not be a problem.
Yep, does get the Thor Rage off right away, takes the water down. In that case, I think probably it's fine. This spot does have a good amount of HP for this area, for what I'm remembering. So definitely, if you didn't have a way of stopping those waves, this would be a much more terrifying fight.
Yeah, and heads up play there by Stone Dingley using those elemental arrows, swapping out to ice arrows to take advantage of that ice weakness that Kaignazo has. Outside of the wave up form, he is weak to ice, and Rose is going to take advantage of some bonus damage there.
Yep, and just looking at BadKarma's inventory as he's scrolling through it right now, he really wants that Rydia once he gets through Baronin, because he's sitting on an Asura summon and a Leviathan summon. And the Asura is not as important because we already have a Rozo. We don't need to try and use Rydia as a backup white mage unless it's an actual backup sort of situation. But having that Leviathan early on would be pretty big, especially if you get like a hook route or like that to just help blast through those bosses with all that extra damage.
Yeah, we were talking about where's our damage going to come from the seed. That Rydia is going to be a significant portion of that. Probably not going to be able to contribute much in the Z fight, but everything up to the Z fight, that Leviathan is absolutely going to do work. Ooh, BadKarma having to take a reset on the Maga Sisters fight.
Yeah, he went to take out Cindy first, and Cecil went down, and then Rosa got charmed by Sandy right afterwards. So really unfortunate situation there, but he'll get through this. He just needs to get a better run through it.
And it's shell time for a Stone Dingley, which means he is almost through this fight. Now just has to outdamage the Remedy, and does so with no problem whatsoever. So is one fight away from a Paladin. BadKarma having to take a reset again.
Yeah, here's the big question though, is what is in this room? Because if it's something obnoxious in this room, then our runners are going to be in a very, very bad time right now, because they already are dealing with something else obnoxious gating their progress at Baronin, and they're just going to have to kind of figure out which is going to be the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, exactly. Dark Knight Cecil does not have many options at all, and despite the fact that, canonically he's the one who does this fight, in the actual game, he doesn't have to do anything. Now when you're asking him to do something against a 1000 HP boss, things can get a little brutal.
Definitely, but at least we'll see what this key item is before we get into that fight, so we'll know what we're playing for. And it is a Sand Ruby, meaning actual progress is gated behind that Baronin fight, and it's pretty likely that underground access is there. There could be still like sneaky demist sitting at Maga Sister's spot, but at this point in time, you're about 90% sure it's going to be that Baronin.
Yeah, and that is especially nasty with the Baigen sitting there in Baronin.
Octoman doesn't seem like too much of a problem. It's hitting pretty hard, but you got cure potions. It'll slow down over time. You'll be fine.
Yeah, getting access to knocking those tentacles out and getting the ATB resets there is going to be very, very helpful for Cecil.
Definitely, and BadKarma is still having problems with this Maga Sisters fight at this point, has not gotten through it yet, as Stone Dingley does clear through that and secure that Sand Ruby. It's very interesting that it's the Sand Ruby there, because we did not see who was in the bed in Kaipo, so we don't know what character that could possibly be, and that could be another possible option to kind of break the seed a bit more open.
Yeah, right you are. I know if I got that Sand Ruby, I'm booking it over to Kaipo, because I'm very, very interested in the prospect of getting one of those characters that could be extremely helpful, such as Edge, with his built-in power and ability to steal, or Atella with now that we've completed ordeals, access to all of those spells. Either of those would be characters I'd be really looking forward to. Even something like a Palom that we can start building into a powerhouse would be great pickup.
I gotta think the only things you wouldn't necessarily want to see at this point in time would be a dupe, and I'm including Edward in the seeing a dupe bit, and a Porum, just because you already have the Rosa at this point. But even a Porum you could make something of if you had to, so that wouldn't even be the worst thing in the world, but we'll see here in a moment.
So in this particular flag site, I've actually found kind of an affinity for having both a Porum and a Rosa, especially if you've got a lot of melee brawlers in your team. If you've got like 3 melee, Porum and Rosa, going into the Z fight is much cleaner, because you have 2 people able to cast Berserk, since you're not going to have those Bacchuses readily available necessarily if you don't have Edge. But it is Tella, and that is very, very useful. Tella, with access to his full spell list right now, can do some backup casting for Rosa. Very, very nice.
Yeah, and for that Baigen fight too, that we will have to see at some point in time, just having immediate access to Berserk, because I don't know if Rosa is a high enough level to have it yet, should be helpful if you wanted to Berserk Cecil and just have him swing away. He'll knock out arms, he'll knock out Baigen, he'll do whatever he needs to do, and he'll get through the fight that little bit quicker.
And you've heard of general stores before, but in Kaipo, it's a specific store. All they sell is Sylph.
I've been
waiting to use that joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's really nice seeing, those sort of small self-made businesses like that succeeding. So really, it's a good thing.
Emphasis on small business, because they're tiny fairies.
That was a double pun for all. So we'll at least see what's in this mist cave here at this point in time, which is the only other boss location we haven't seen aside from, of course, Tower of Zot, Magus Sister spot. So yeah, this is it's interesting.
The only thing keeping us from required, besides that, the Zot, only thing keeping us from required Baron, and it's Water Hag.
If you're afraid of the Baigen, and very, very, very afraid of the Baigen, and you think your opponent is going to be throwing their face at Baigen and possibly not succeeding, is there a world in which you consider sneakily checking that Magus Sisters spot in the hopes of there being a demist? I think it's too low of a likelihood right now, but it is a technical possibility.
I would consider it, but that would only be in my specific circumstance, because in almost any race in this tournament, I would be going in as the low seed. And I think that's the kind of gamble you keep on your, you keep in your pocket, where, if it is that exact thing, you think your opponent is going to be struggling, why not throw that out and, try that gamble out? It would definitely be something I would consider.
Yeah, because even if it doesn't end up being demist, like if you do gamble it, which again, it's a low chance gamble, you still have a possibility that if the Earth Crystal is buried and it ends up being even Wyvern or Antlion and gives you objective and that extra chunk of XP from it, you might still end up coming out ahead out of it. But it is pretty low % chance right now.
Oh yeah. The other reason I would consider it would be the Flame Dog chest. Getting to take a look at that, because that is a relatively free trapped chest, and as we mentioned, trap chests are just very valuable when you've got a Cecil on your seed, because there's always a chance you can pull one of those really great swords. Also, a chance to get a few levels on Cecil, since he's level 1 going into here. You can get some experience off that Flame Dog chest, and then if it's something you want to keep, leave Zot with it and have a little more HP going into this fight.
Well, we are going to see how insert axe, because I don't know which one he has on here, Cecil Go Bird does in this particular Baigan fight. So, you know, really, this is actually a pretty free fight with the setup he's going for here, where you're just basically like, I don't want to say free, that's free in quotation marks, but you get blinks up, you get Cecil swinging away, he's knocking out those arms in one hit when he's hitting them. This isn't actually all that dangerous.
Yeah, this is a relatively slow spot. So if you've got the characters available to get set up in the way that Stone Dingley does, then yeah, you can kind of start really taking command of the fight. And that's really where he is now. Able to get the arms down as soon as they come back up. They're really not able to put out too much punishment. Got those blinks on there as insurance. So yeah, things are going really well for him. BadKarma is about to face off against Octomam here in the Kluya Shrine.
Yep, so he'll get his Sand Ruby too, which means he'll have his Tele soon enough, and will likely also be heading over to this Baronin spot right afterwards. Another thing that's worth noting about this party setup that both of them will have going into this potentially difficult Baigan fight is that you have two white mages, meaning you have two sources of healing if something does start going wrong. So that's going to be very helpful on the safety end. And it is a hook route, so that's an exciting thing for them today.
Indeed, though honestly, right now, I think Stone Dingley's got to be feeling pretty confident about this hook route. A lot of equipment for that Cecil. You've got Rydia here. She's going to be online shortly, being able to throw Leviathans out. Rose is doing work. Tella's there for support. This is a pretty good team to be going on the hook route.
Definitely, and you could also swing by and potentially get through those Eblin Castle trap chests on the way through as well. See if you land on that crystal sword along the way, since you're already over in that neighborhood. And also another free character just off of that hook route is another good potential find here, because if you find, like, say, Vanilla Edge or something like that, that's gonna change what you do a lot.
Yes, indeed. And let's see what Stone Dingley's approach is. Okay, is going to be at least doing a little bit of looting, getting these early chests here. Might have just been feeling out that Staleman chest, seeing if he got it early so he could just scum through it and get all the rest.
Definitely, and there are Leviathans for sale if he did not pick up Leviathan earlier, but the fact that he's not buying it makes me assume that he did actually pick up that Leviathan, because I know that was a little bit of a question we were having earlier. And so, you know, that's going to take care of most anything along the way. But was that a light sword, or was that light something else?
Indeed, that was a light sword for Cecil. So we know at least the light sword is on the table. Probably a bit too pricey for our runners right now, but you know, if you don't get anything better for Cecil, that is always there and available.
Definitely. There's a little bit of a question of, do you really need a light sword at the moment with the wonderful variety of axes that both are, they're not as strong, but they're pretty strong, and also provide a good amount of that sort of type weakness coverage as well. And it looks like he's resetting back out, having checked the character, found dupe Tella in the, facing off against a Sparkle, and is going to go back here for these trap chests now.
Yeah, I like this play. Like I said, I really like Eblin Castle plays. I really like hunting for treasure here. You know, you've got Cecil. There's just such a huge chance that this pays off for you. I really don't blame him for doing this. Especially when you see that Sparkle there, because we have not seen a Sparkle boss to my knowledge. So that could be any number of nasty things there.
That's correct. We have not seen any one of them so far, and a lot of them in that Rubicant spot could be quite terrifying. Obviously, Wyvern is Wyvern. He can be a handful no matter where he goes. But if this is like the Ogo Pogo hook route with the four-man party, that's not the most exciting thing in the world.
And BadKarma about to get the news that there is nothing interesting in Mist Cave today. But not before back row glitching his Cecil.
Yeah, for those of you who are new to the randomizer or otherwise, first of all, welcome. And secondly, what we're talking about when we mention the back row glitch is there is a little bit of a glitch in this game.
Oh,
figure.
wow! I'm sorry, was that the crystal sword?
I think so.
You mashed through it very quickly, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. We
I
talked
saw
about
the
any
word
of those.
crystal and I immediately
Wow.
stopped talking and lost my.
Yeah. We talked about how any of those trap chests could pay off for Cecil, and that is an enormous payoff for Stone Dingley. Immediately abandoning Cave Evelyn. Yeah, he is good to go for quite a while now. Wow, that's big.
Yeah, that is the absolute biggest prize possible in any trap chest for this party right now. And so finding that, you have Crystal Sword Cecil, you have Leviathan, you have not one but two different characters that can cast Berserk on that Cecil depending on what your turn order is in the fight. And even Rosa can put out quite a bit. This is a really, really good setup.
Absolutely. But I am sorry to have interrupted you, Anth. You were talking about how well constructed the coding in Final Fantasy IV is.
Yes, this is a game that was made. And because of that, one of the things that is a little quirk in it is that if you equip a character with a long-range weapon, be it like the dwarf axe that they throw, the full moon that we see in the shop for edge, or bows and arrows, it sets a little bit on their character data that says that, hey, they can do long-range damage. They do full damage from the back row. They do full damage to enemies in the back row. When you take it off, there is nothing that unsets that, is my understanding of how the glitch works. And so now we have that Crystal Sword Cecil in the back row, taking half damage, covering anyone who's, at low health automatically until Berserk is on, at least, at which point in time it doesn't matter. And then you can just knock them over. And also, speaking of doing a lot of damage, he just pulled a heroin robe from one of these chests as well.
Yeah, that is so nice. Heroin robe might be one of my favorite pieces of gear in the game, just because it completely flips the established archetype of the women in the game on their head. Usually, all three of the females are mages. Equip the heroin robe, and all of a sudden they are frontline bruisers, or in Rose's case, backline bruiser, being able to take advantage of that bow there. But for a major penalty to both the casting stats, the heroin robe grants massive bonuses to all of the physical stats, making them super fast, super strong, and super tough. Really, really fantastic way to extend Rose's damage as an archer through the mid game and a little bit into the end game as well. So really, really big pickup there.
Yeah, and it will mean that you'll have two extremely strong fighters for this hook route in that Leviathan casting Rydia and Crystal Sword Cecil. There are two different tiers of extremely at work there, but relatively they're, overpowered is overpowered for this point. And then you'll also have Rosa, who will also be quite strong. Plus, Tella should have enough MP in this case to cover any healing necessary to get through this. This is a pretty good, if you're trying to figure out what's a good 4-party setup for a hook route, this is a pretty good one.
Yeah, and the thing about healing is, even though you're not going to be able to heal very well with Rosa while she has the heroin robe on, anything that inflicts a status, positive status on your party, really isn't affected by your casting stats at all. So, Blink is the perfect perfect representation of an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure. So getting Blink up on the party for any kind of physical bosses is going to be just perfectly fine, even better than reactive curing. And then you can keep the heroin robe on. She can still deal some damage, and things will be honky-dory.
Yeah, the big question on my mind here right now is watching BadKarma going through these Cave Eblin shops. Is he going to go back to Castle Eblin afterwards? And it looks like we have a double Sparkle hook route here, as this King and Queen Eblin spot ends up being Pale Dim.
Yeah, we do indeed. So, we're looking for that Wyvern fight. Could be showing up in Rubicante afterwards. 1 in 4 chance at this point, because this is the first Sparkle we've seen.
Absolutely, and I feel like if you were looking for, trying to think what is the easiest Sparkle to have in that Rubicon spot, probably Pale Dim might be second easiest in that list after Plague. And so getting him out of the way kind of ups the scariness there. Although as Stone Dingley ends up having to reset, I might be wrong on that in this case.
Yeah, very, very punchy there. Not an enormous amount of HP to have to get through, but you got to survive it long enough to deal that damage. So this might be a little tougher than we said. Need to get some blinks out as soon as possible here.
Definitely, and nope, gonna go ahead and immediately berserk Cecil instead in this case. I think
that might be because Rosa might not have blink yet. It might just be Tella doing blink duty.
I believe so. It might, in which case it kind of leads to a question to me of whether or not if you have another problem with this, he's just going for raw damage at this point, trying to knock him over before that happens. Is there a world in which, if this becomes a problem, you just sort of let Pale Dim knock everyone else down, don't berserk your Cecil and let him cover things? But he's still taking a bit too much damage for that, I think. Although, one blink from Tella and that sort of takes that problem out.
Yeah, the speed is becoming a problem here. That is a very fast-moving Pale Dim, but doing enough damage, getting through that fight, and Stone Dingley is moving on to whoever's sitting here in the Rubicante fight.
Yeah, and this is the ever-important reminder for this video game that you only need that 80 HP. That's 79 more HP than you still need to get through the fight.
Another fun reminder is, keep in mind, since this is the Rubicante fight, he is an honorable gentleman. He will always heal you before the fight, even if he's randomized. So no need to throw down a tent or a cabin on that save point. Just walk back up. You'll be full healed right before the fight. Also, don't try to set up any sort of HP critical on your team going into this for cover strats. I've done that before and forgotten. Ooh. These Lunars, not the easiest of fights. And now you got to decide, well, I've got this holy sword on Cecil. Are we gonna just power through? And yeah, it looks like that is a Stone Dingley's plan, and we're gonna deal with the reflected viruses.
This is interesting. It's something that you could make a lot easier on yourself if you needed to as well. You could always wait out the clock and possibly burn a Star Veil and do the reflected breath strats, but I think you should be able to get through just fine with Cecil swinging for 9,000 damage on these D-Lunars right now.
Yeah, always scary to be swinging for 9,000 at this part of the game, and whatever you're hitting is still on its feet. Not anymore, though. Can't take two of those.
Definitely. And over on BadKarma's side, he has gone back for those Castle Eblin trap chests, so he should be... I believe it was this Mad Ogre chest that had the crystal sword, so he'll have his pretty soon to be following through.
Yeah, right you are. He will have that and be following a Stone Dingley here very quickly. And just like that, Stone Dingley is through the hook route and has broken into the underworld at the 38-minute mark.
I feel like in these bracket rounds, we've had a lot of hook routes. We've had a lot of fast hook routes, those sub 40-minute early hooks. I saw one at sub 30 minutes the other day, which was really exciting. So we're not having those sort of things that we would see in like Lolly Ho League, where we had a lot of 1 hour before you even got through the hook route seeds. And there is a sparkle on top of Lower Babel.
It is a cabal of sparkles here. One sparkle taking orders on top of the Tower of Babel from the two sparkles in Lower Babel, and it's all a mess. Or Upper Babel, whichever one is Upper Babel.
Everything is up if you think hard enough about
That's true.
The world.
That's true.
If you go up infinitely through the entirety of the universe, do you eventually come back to this question? It's the universe a sphere. This and more metaphysical, particle physics, deep space questions are what we're really here for anyways.
Like, I barely know enough about Final Fantasy IV to be commentating. I can't get into quantum physics.
They didn't make you get the degree before you signed? Oh no, I feel like I made a mistake.
No, I got in through pure nepotism.
That's the way to go.
If you're wondering why I'm allowed to do things, I just charmed my way to the top. Fake it until you make it. You're going to get a key item check here from a Stone Dingley, and it is a tower key. Tower looking really, really nice. That sparkle at the top, that could be Wyvern.
This seed is pushy. It's really trying to get you into the way it wants you to go. You know, you start with that Cecil, and then you get all this Paladin Cecil gear, and it's like, you want to go to Mount Ordeals. And then you've done everything else. Like, you have to go to Baron Inn. You get down here, you see the sparkle at the top of tower, you see the tower key, you're like, no, you want to go to the tower next. You don't get choices right now. I'm sure you could go to Dwarf Castle if you wanted to try and get that 5th character, but don't you want to know what that sparkle is?
It's just the seed is just on your shoulder, just whispering. You're like, hey, come on, go over here. Go over here. Come on, do it. And then Angel on your other shoulder is like, you know what? No, he's got a point.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see King Val and Queen Dark Knight Cecil fought at any point in time in this seed, but at least they're out of the way and not hiding on the moon or something.
Yeah, one of the wonderful things about this flag set is that we've turned off that K summon, so unless there's a boss you really, really need to get done in the Fey March, you can largely ignore it. And as someone who has run into many terrifying things in the Fey March, I approve of that.
You mean you don't like when you're running out of options and you have to fight like Demist at the Leviathan spot instead?
That's why the forfeit command exists.
Exactly, but this is a 1-1 game 3. You don't get that option in this seed. You kind of got to keep going.
Oh yeah, you're right. I got to try. Speaking of trying, we're not going to have to try very hard against Yang here with the Paladin Cecil in tow, because that is a storyline trigger.
And that's good, because that means that this will end up being essentially a free character. This Yang is one of those sort of not entirely free, and I think this spot can be a little bit deceptively more punchy than you think. Not like super strong, but could, KO that Rydia, assuming he doesn't want that Rydia KO'd. And we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, the big thing is it can slog on for a little longer than you would like, just because you've got the combined HP total of all of those Calcabrina dolls. And we get to ignore all of that, because on round 2, Cecil can just do the attack command. And... yeah, ouch!
And I believe, based off what I just read in chat, did Cecil pick up a power shirt from one of those other Castle Eblin trap chests? Because that is another big bonus there.
I believe that was the case. Hey, Cecil, I heard you liked 15 strength. How about 30 strength?
So that's interesting to me, because BadKarma is a little bit behind at the moment, and I wonder how much just that extra 15 strength is going to shorten some of these fights. Those D-Lunars getting hit for 9k, they're going to get hit for damage cap now, almost certainly.
Yeah, I'm not sure that damage cap is going to be enough to one-shot them. I'm not very good at math, though, so someone might want to check me on that. But getting an no from Dathis. Okay, good. Have about 10k each. Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, not going to be enough to one-shot. Still going to have the same number of attacks, but still, in the long run, that power shirt's a great pickup.
Definitely. And speaking of great things to finding CPU in a relatively low health location is nice. It's only got 2,500 health based off of that remedy, so this will be a pretty easy and quick fight. It's always nice to see something that could be a problem if it had a lot of HP in this Golbez spot that has not very much HP overall.
Flory in chat bringing up a very interesting question. Do you go for the double nuke slingshot, or you go burr as much as possible? Based on what we've seen so far, I would be inclined to just go burr as much as possible. We have not seen many key items at all, which is leading me to believe there's going to be a good number of key items on the moon. And so getting to that 10 key items might be a little bit difficult, and I really don't like to try to do any kind of slingshot if I don't have those 10 key items.
Definitely, and we don't even know how much further buried it's going to be before we get access to some of those grinds, because we don't have an edge to facilitate sirens. We don't have the darkness crystal yet to get to the giant. We don't have even just things like, if you wanted to go the real sort of unpopular grinds that still could work. You know, something like doors, you don't have Luca key yet, so we don't really have access to any of that. And I gotta wonder how buried it's going to be before we can actually get to that, and whether or not you would get more benefit and speed out of just keeping that Rydia and Palom alive so that they can actually do things for the rest of the seed and then eat the bit of a loss later on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I would be very inclined to just sort of play this seed straight, just keep doing progression, keep getting XP that way, and if Go mode falls into your lap, there's plenty of easy ways to get some experience. You really do not need a Rosa and Cecil to be high level here, as well kitted out as they are, and they're really all you need for Zeroma. So, like, maybe just even taking some behemoths in that cave that has value, whose name eludes me at the moment, would be Bahamut. That's the one. Would be all you need in the end.
Definitely. And we ended up seeing a pass being hung around Luca's neck, the paper necklace at this point in time. And that's another interesting thing, especially if we get the Darkness Crystal here, because if you have a Darkness Crystal, you have this party where you have a Crystal Sword Cecil. Is it something where you potentially take doing a short grind, or where you potentially even might be able to get through some of those moon bosses now? Because I feel like when you go to the moon, when you have the pass already in hand, you kind of want to clear as much of the moon as humanly possible before you go back. So that's another interesting question of, is it worth doing that grind before 10 key items if it will enable you getting through those moon bosses and then using those moon bosses for the rest?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very, very good point there. Stone Dingley doing the Super Cannon room first. Plans on doing them both, and not the fight you want to see here. You're hoping to find that somewhere on the moon.
Yeah, easy fights are easy fights, but this is already an easy fight no matter who it is, unless it's, you know, like Golbez showing up and then still becomes a nightmare somehow. But, you know, there's still a lot of seed left to go, so might as well take this fight on the way up, because you're going to be clearing both anyways, no matter what.
Yeah, it also kills the dream of having all 4 Babel bosses be Sparkles, which is sad. And Apex Corvid, the 4 Sparkle Tower dream is dead.
I mean, you know, it's everyone's favorite boss. It's a plague officer. And soldiers.
The backup dancers for Plague.
Exactly. I'm waiting for, you know, it's almost a shame that he went to that first, so I couldn't make a joke that it was just the 2 different Sparkle bosses we haven't seen yet in like officer and soldier uniforms. But I can't make that joke safely, because if I guess one of them wrong and one of them was at the top of tower, I'm just gonna look like a fool there. So, you know, just pretend that I made that joke and it was good.
Sorry about that. There was a dog that snuck in here that I didn't realize was here.
Let the dog join in the commentary.
Oh, she's watched enough Free Enterprise that she probably knows more about this game than I do at this point.
In that case, she definitely knows more than I do, too, so we'll just let her take over at this point.
Trimmers, you want to be in comms?
So we're about to see what the Sparkle is here at the top of the tower. And if this is Wyvern, then, you know, that's great. But I'm kind of almost hoping it isn't. And it is that Wyvern. What's the ability? Blizzard.
Ooh. Yeah, that's gonna require a little bit of prep there.
I don't like Dairy Queen Wyvern that much.
Yeah, Dairy Queen Wyvern very much turning that party upside down.
How do you get through this fight if right at the moment that Blizzard is going to knock out basically your entire party except for Cecil right away?
It's going to be hard, because, you know, this spot is fast enough that Cecil on his own probably isn't going to be able to, you know, get enough characters back up, because once Wyvern setup is going to take out 1 character a turn, And then, it's kind of a war of attrition at that point. If you don't have enough people up, they're just going to spend every turn pulling somebody up, and you're just going to be, waiting for the recovery to come around to even get a turn advantage. BadKarma is through, though, and into the underworld, so he's going to start his excursion and see, what routing he decides to go with here.
I kind of have to expect that he'll go with the same sort of Feymarch, Dwarf Castle, and then Tower route, because I feel like you're kind of in a spot right now where you're thinking, okay, I'm pretty strong with this Crystal Sword, but I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to get through that at this point. And another thing that's worth noting, too, is that this spot at top of Tower is quite high in HP, since it's that split boss with the double Doctor dialogue fight up here. And so just trying to power through it with just that Crystal Sword alone isn't going to end up working.
Does get both Cecil and Rosa to survive the blizzard, though, which managed to get the rest of the party up. Should be good to go at this point. Now you can just attack with that Crystal Sword and summon Leviathans with Rydia. Oh, don't summon Leviathans with Rydia. Why wouldn't we do that, Enth?
I mean, you could do that if you wanted to burn all your silk webs and have it be a good idea. Not silk webs, star veils. That's the one I'm thinking of. And have it still be a good idea. But Wyvern doesn't like summons, being a summon that cannot be summoned himself, basically. And if you summon against him, then what he does is say, yeah, I can do that. And then he casts Mega Nuke, which even with this Witchburn flag on will still pull Mega Nuke, and so you will die immediately.
Yeah, to answer your question in chat, Wyvern is just traditionally a very difficult boss. If you're more familiar with the updated translations, I believe this is Dark Bahamut, who is one of the optional bosses deep in the subterranean there. Wyvern will open. Normally, Wyvern opens up with Mega Nuke, which in most positions will just completely wipe your party. In this flag set, we're a little bit nicer. We make it so that his opening attack is randomized. In this case, it was the Blizzard ability, which was very close to Mega Nuke, wiping most of a Stone Dingley's party. But because of his sort of notoriety, he's become one of the objectives for this tournament. They have to hunt him down wherever he's been randomized. And so, yeah, as a Stone Dingley takes him out there, that is the first objective done for Dingley. And we have our first objective on the board at 52 minutes.
That's a pretty late first objective, but I gotta feel like the rest of this seed is gonna go quite quickly. And it is a pink tail for it, which is interesting, because where is progress then? That must mean that progress is either from that super cannon fight, or, the dream of D-Mist lurking in the Magus Sister spot still alive.
Yeah, that's and Pinktail is an item I usually like to see on Cecil because it's a free dip into that high tier item pool. But since we've already found the Crystal Sword, actually checking that Pinktail out is kind of going to the back burner. Unless we find a Rat Tail, I might not do it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a question of what equipment benefits this party that you don't already have. Maybe like a white shirt, maybe like Artemis, anything for Rosa, preferably the arrows, but a bow is fine. But even then, those don't seem like a high enough priority to be worth going for right now.
Here comes the airship and a very important reveal. We have got a White Lance. Where are the key items?
Doesn't that mean by necessity that it has to be either Sheila 1 or, again, D-Mist and Zot, because those are the only two options still left on the table at this point?
Yeah, I think you're right, unless I'm forgetting something. Yeah, this is a surprisingly linear seed that we've got here. Not really much cause for divergence. It's all kind of funneling you down the same route.
And I think that's an interesting question, too, is if you're a runner in this sort of one-to-one situation, game 3, kind of everything on the line, Do you want to see a seed like this that's linear, or do you want to see a seed that's particularly wide open and has a lot of different divergent choices you could make at any point in time?
Yeah, and I think that really kind of goes down to how you feel about your mechanical skill compared to your opponent. If you, don't feel as confident in your skill, I think you want a wide open seed where some of your routing decisions can really make the can really make the difference. If you are confident in your skill, then yeah, you want those linear seeds where it's coming down to who's executing better on fights. So yeah, I think it kind of burns down to what kind of player you see yourself as.
Yeah, and I think, at least from the commentary perspective and the viewer perspective too, sometimes these really tight seeds can be interesting because we have these really tense moments like we're having right now of what is this Sheila one check? What's it going to be? Is it going to be that Darkness Crystal? And it is the Earth Crystal.
Very, very interesting. That opens up that treasury, favorite of the massive amount of loot available in there. But more importantly, opens up that Zot check. 2 bosses up there and a key item could potentially open things up here very, very nicely.
It's also a good bonus to have that double party member check without having gone and done your level grind yet. Because I feel like, you're okay having this Rydia and Palom, but let's say you find like a couple of good berserkers. Would you even potentially want to transition into just like a pure berserk party, have that Tella and Rosa to berserk everyone up and just really knock Z down that way instead, sort of thing? That option is available because we have some really good equipment for other attackers. Like I think we've seen Cane Lances and like that too.
Strength ring, that's speaking of things. Another white lance, 2 black belts, a tiara, another strength ring. Yeah, if Kane is 3rd strength ring. What is this? Yeah, I think that answers the question right there. If there are brawlers on Zot, I take them. And yeah, but there's a dragon whip for Rydia. Throw that heroine robe on, she can be a brawler too.
Can we finally get like the Zeus gauntlet Rydia that I've been hoping for this whole time?
Yeah, interesting thing about Rydia, when she grows up, not before she grows up, but after she grows up, she can equip the Zeus gauntlet. So heroine robe, Zeus gauntlet, dragon whip Rydia can do some serious physical damage.
That was a very good treasury on the whole, though. 3 strength rings alone is big. This is definitely a please take Berserker's seed, so we'll end up seeing what's up here, and even then, you get a Darkness Crystal out of this, you're still checking that character on the moon before you're deciding what to do next at this point.
Yeah, precisely. If there is a Kane up here, I think he is an auto pick. I think the same thing with an Edge. I don't know that we've seen too many great weapons for Edge. I think we might have seen a ninja sword somewhere, but I still take him. Even Yang at this point, I would welcome into the team with open arms. Yeah, there's just so much good gear here for our brawlers now.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a Yang, you knock him over, and then you slingshot him later because he scales so hard off of levels, you could make a really terrifying Yang for the late game here.
Yeah, and especially with the strength ring and the power shirt that BadKarma has too, because of the way Yang's damage formula works for his fists, he gets much more value out of strength than the other melee fighters. So even though he doesn't do a lot of damage early on in the late game, he can really put out some damage with some strength equipment on him. Rydia dodging that blizzard, showing off that willpower stat. What a trooper. And some ha over here for Dingley.
One thing that's interesting over on BadKarma's side is I did notice he put a wall down on Rydia, and I was almost wondering if he was going to start summoning with Rydia and try and actually bait out that Mega Nuke and get Wyvern to Mega Nuke himself, and that might still be a possible plan here.
Yeah, but something that you sort of briefly touched on earlier, but yeah, if you summon anything against Wyvern, a lot of these bosses that were originally in the Lunar Subterrane have built-in counters against Rydia summons because the developers hate Rydia. And Wyvern will automatically Mega Nuke if you use any summon against him. You can take advantage of that by setting up Reflect on your team and reflecting the Mega Nuke back to him in certain spots that can do a ton of damage. Taking the wipe there, going to go in for round 2, where Dingley using some Piggy and Mini strats. Do you kind of want to explain what that's about, Em?
Sure. So, vanilla Final Fantasy IV, don't try this on any of the later versions, it doesn't work anymore, works on a system of status priority, which basically means that every status effect in the game kind of sits in a list of what is the highest priority thing. And if you try and cast a lower priority status effect against something that already has a higher priority status effect, in this case Piggy and Mini, then it will fail. And that is what happens with Golbez's Paralyze when he tries to cast it against your entire party when you have your whole party in that Piggy and Mini state. And so because of that, it allows you to queue up actions while you're in the cutscene at the start of it, which can be a really huge advantage because basically all Golbez does is knock you down to 2 party members and then start slinging spells. And so just being able to queue up attacks, queue up Star Veils if there was any flag set other than this one, that sort of thing can be really, really big for getting you through that fight.
Some Sylphs here to get the healing. Sylph, not something that we see too much in this flag set, because one of the nice things about it, the fact that in the vanilla game it's glitched to not actually consume MP when you cast it, that has been turned off for this tournament, but still very nice spell, equivalent in power roughly to a virus spell, but has the added benefit of healing your entire team at the same time. So for the cost of a somewhat lengthy animation, you get a lot of damage and healing utility. And you get the wee woo.
That's kind of Rydia in a nutshell in this game too, is she has a lot of like spells that are just better versions of black magic spells as her summons, but usually the trade-off is that they take a bit longer to cast. And we are seeing dupe Rydia here as this first thing in Zot, so that's nothing in this case.
Personal aside, I'm always kind of disappointed that they sort of dropped the idea of casting time after Final Fantasy IV. I'd like to see them revisit it in a game. I think they did a little bit in 10-2, but I think it's a really cool mechanic that I'd like to see come back.
They did in 10-2 and also a bit in 12 because spells have different cast times for their abilities. You're right as well. But 12 is kind of like reverse ATB to begin with.
Yeah. 12 is you take your turn, then you wait.
Yep. And looks like we have the dupe tower here. So yeah, your Berserker Hopes is very water everywhere and not a drop to drink today.
And speaking of summons, there's Odin sitting here.
That's a pretty free fight in this particular setup. Cecil will knock him over before he can do anything particularly scary. He's just going to sit there and normal attack for like 200 damage.
Yeah, shouldn't even get to the part where he raises his sword. So we should be fine here. Yep, and down he goes.
That is particularly interesting because what's worrying me at this point is where does this lead? Does this lead to more rabbit holes or does this lead to the moon? And what do you do in this situation where you still have all of that really good Berserker gear and it's almost a shame to waste it? But at the same time, you kind of got to play what the game gives you, and right now the game is kind of giving you hybrid strats for Z later on.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very much one of those seeds that is like, I'm going to make you adapt to what I'm going to give you. You know, you're not going to have your own strategy. And there's that darkness crystal, so that opens up things a little bit. We get a character check on the moon, and there's a lot of bosses to be done on the moon, but that's really the only place to go right now. Your only play is the moon.
Here is the absolute critical question. It's big for Stone Dingley. It'll be big for BadKarma when he gets there as well. Is you have 7 key items right now heading up to this darkness crystal. When do you do that level grind? Because I gotta think if you have a Tella in your party and no edge, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're gonna be going for probably D Machine out of any potential grind. And so because of that, there's this question of, do you take that earlier D-Machine grind where you don't have 10 key items and it's going to take basically twice the time otherwise, or do you try and get through some of those moon bosses, maybe see if you can find something free to get up to 10 key items to take that out, and how much time would that cost if that ends up not paying off?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question right now, because you have two casters in your team that are going to benefit from a grind. You are a decently far bit away from that 10 key item threshold, but I'm feeling so confident in this team. I think I'm going to the moon and actually taking on fights there. I don't really feel that this team is so weak that I need to do a grind before I go to the moon, but that's just me personally looking at this. We'll see how Dingley feels. Going to the moon first to at least do the character check, it seems.
One possibility that was just raised in chat that I have to agree with as a possible sort of compromise between the two is you have that Siren, you have that Hourglass too. You have to go to Cave Bahamut. Why not get down to that bottom floor, throw that Siren, drop those out, take that cane with you 100% of the time, and do some gold dragons while you're down there.
Yes, indeed. Now, Dingley does not have that Hourglass anymore because I believe he used it on the Mad Ogres in Castle Eblin. But even still, with the amount of damage a Berserk Cecil is going to be putting out with that Crystal Sword, can still get through a Gold Dragon fight pretty easily here.
Absolutely. I believe the White Spear still has bonus damage against them, doesn't it? Or am I misremembering?
I know the Dragoon Spear does. I don't know about the White Spear.
I couldn't remember if Spears just had like innate always good against dragonsness or not, and Dath is saying it does not, so I was incorrect on that, which is not surprising to me in this case.
Now it's now most spears are going to be doing bonus damage against flying enemies, but the Dragoon Spear specifically has that anti-dragon property.
Flying enemies, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
So yeah, with the cane in tow, I'm thinking nuke is much less of a priority. We've got two absolutely strong, beefy berserkers now. I think, we just start taking things on the moon. I don't think there's any call for a grind at this point. Except maybe dropping a Siren right here to get that cane slingshotted up.
Definitely 100%. The question is, if he doesn't have that Hourglass, how quickly is he going to be able to get through those Gold Dragons? Because those Gold Dragons can be a little bit rough if you're not fully kitted out. And it is Doctor a cutscene down here at the bottom of Cave Value, so it's not like there's a particularly difficult boss fight here ahead of him.
Yeah, this is a very punchy spot, but Dr. Lugai, not a terribly difficult AI script to deal with, so should be able to get through this fight.
Definitely, and speaking of getting through this fight, looking back over at BadKarma's side, he has been having a bit of trouble with this Wyvern fight, but this is looking like one of the more stable attempts so far. So I gotta think he should be able to get through this pretty soon here. Getting that reflected nuke, again taking out the Palom, which is unfortunate, but I think definitely now throwing out Ashura's has those 3 ways of healing at this point. He has enough to get through this.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, there was the question about what was the significance of Wyvern, and this is sort of it. Wyvern is just a notoriously difficult fight. No matter what you do to it, you can take away that opening Mega Nuke, and he's still going to be throwing nukes, at you constantly. So always a danger, Wyvern. And yeah, BadKarma kind of demonstrating how he can really be a roadblock. Oh, that's very nice. Cecil surviving there with 20 HP. That's really good when he's going to be taking out a character every turn. That gives you some headway. And he's down. BadKarma is through. Excellent job there. He's got his first objective.
Yeah, a bit of a rough time, but kept plugging at it and eventually just hit on that one combination to get through. And it's a good example of, one of the most interesting things about this randomizer to me is that there's a lot of situations where if you just keep thinking, keep changing things around, moving one thing each time, you'll eventually be able to solve any problem you're going for. Of course, sometimes luck plays into it too, but I'm gonna chalk this more to skill.
Luck in a randomizer? And you might notice the heal there. That's kind of going back to what we said earlier about that status priority. A character can only have one status effect at a time. So if we want to get Cecil berserked up, we have got to heal that poison first. So that is the reason for that. And did the berserk miss, or does Cecil have some anti-berserk on him?
It's a Tella, so I'm going to assume it missed.
Tella being Tella.
One of the fun things about the game Final Fantasy IV for the Super Famicom is that whether or not even beneficial spells can hit can be based off of your magic stat, and I believe your magic stat relative to whoever you're trying to hit's magic stat. And so you can miss positive spells with someone like Tella, who has innately low magic that never grows in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it brings back horrible memories of your white mages missing life spells in Final Fantasy Tactics. But Stone Dingley is through, and we are rewarded with a crystal ring, which is a wonderful piece of kit. But most importantly, Objective 2 is down.
Here's an interesting question: is how much does that crystal ring have that sort of really hidden benefit? Because doesn't crystal ring have a bit of positive agility on it, which you could possibly use to mess with your Cecil's agility a little bit and maybe hit one of those thresholds you're looking for?
It does indeed. If I am not mistaken, it's got 3 agility on it. So yeah, if you are really close to one of those agility breakpoints, that can modify things where you need to be. Absolutely. 5 agility, excuse me.
Yeah, and for those of you who are new to the randomizer and FF4 in general, the reason why that's important is because all agility in the game is calculated relative to, in this case, Cecil. With the Sea Hero flag on, it's whoever is your hero character. So, you know, in this case, Cecil. And because of that, you kind of want to hit very specific points of agility for your Cecil for that final fight. Because if you are like right under one of them, like one of them is 28, if I'm remembering correctly. If you're at 27, that Z fight ends up turning into a nightmare. So you kind of have to play with your agility a little bit, and it's a skill that our runners learn over time.
Yeah, it's a function of how they wanted to keep the battles relatively the same speed, even as your agility goes up. But in the calculation for doing that, decimals got truncated, so yeah, there are certain that the result is certain, like you mentioned, 28 certain breakpoints where you want to be able to comfortably be at in order to get easier to deal with speeds. Ooh, Dark Elf. Sorry, buddy. Cecil's got a holy sword.
Well, this is just deeply unfortunate for that Dark Elf.
Yeah, pay attention to the damage Berserk Cecil is going to do here. And even Kane with that White Lance is going to contribute a decent amount, even though he's lower level. Yeah, quad 9s.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a hard fight at this point in time. But, you know, you got to look at the HP values on this party too. And this is a pretty low level party for dealing with all these moon spots. And it really shows how much equipment can make a huge difference in this game. Because if it weren't for the mountains of equipment this seed was throwing at our runners, this would not be possible right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of one of the interesting distinctions between the two character archetypes in this game, you know, your fighters and your mages. Mages are going to scale better with just raw experience because you're going to get to those breakpoint levels that give you spells that have higher damage coefficients, especially at the end game when you get that nuke spell, the big bread and butter for black mages or white mages. Melee characters, complete opposite. They're going to definitely benefit from levels because, you know, their strength will passively increase and that'll be more damage multipliers. But the biggest thing that they're going to get damage from is just whatever equipment they have. So if you're finding a lot of equipment, fighters are going to be a good strategy. If you're not finding great equipment, you might want to fall back on those mages because they're just going to be better with the experience you get.
Yeah, one thing worth noting that speaking of all this talk of equipment over on BadKarma's side, possibly feeling a bit behind in terms of time here, has just chosen to fade that treasury entirely, which, given what we know about what's in that treasury, is quite unfortunate because it means he won't have those strength rings if he didn't pick up that other white spear for, I guess that other white spear was in a key item spot. It's going to be a little bit of a downside that he won't have that bit of an extra power there.
Yeah, he does have that power shirt, which is really good, and the strength rings are excellent items. Black belt's also really good items, but I don't blame him for skipping it, especially with how much time he spent on Wyvern there. He's got to be feeling like he's behind at this point. So anything he can cut to earn some extra time is something he's gonna do at this point.
Absolutely, it's a good example of one of those decisions that's, you know, probably the right decision to make at that point in time, but where we know what we know, it could look a bit worse in comparison just because we know what's in that treasury.
And let's see if Karma is just going to take this fight naturally. Looks like he is not resetting yet to try to set up any strats. So let's see if he can just straight on get through it here. Cecil stays alive, should be good to go because Golbez is weak to both fire damage and holy damage in much the same way I am weak to my voice cracking, apparently. And nope, gonna take the reset after all.
So an interesting question that I just thought of with the Spectre of the Supersmith's flag brought up in the chat. What are you hoping for to pull for a weapon at this point where you have a crystal sword? Are you hoping for one of those really good Cecil weapons that you could equip to the cane instead?
Maybe. Honestly, you know, with the crystal sword and the white spear, I kind of don't care what I pull from there. I mean, yeah, optimally one of those really good Cecil weapons Kane can take is probably the best thing because there's no way Cecil's giving up that crystal sword. Yeah, I think you've got the right idea there. I think something Kane can use.
Definitely, and
chat settling for a piggy stick, yeah.
I do want to note that Cecil has gone down over on Stone Dingley's side because Mom Bomb in the Ribbon Room is always going to be one of those things that you would think, if you were not necessarily familiar with the boss scaling, is going to be an easy fight. It is not. She punches very hard here and is able to just knock out people with pretty big ease here.
Thankfully, the board AI picking his targets a little nicely here, allowing Stone Dingley to get up all of those blinks. And that is going to be a major source of survival here against this fight, since it is all it's going to do is punch. And yeah, chat pointing out, this is one of those fights where the XP is split in such a way that it's really unfortunate. I think we saw this exact same boss in this exact same location last night. This is a really, really good spot for experience, but since that experience is split between Mom Bomb and the Bombettes, you're never going to get the full allotment of experience here. So that's really unfortunate for this fight in this specific location.
And even especially adding onto it just in this specific seed where you could potentially get away with not needing to do any level grind if you were to get enough levels out of these moon bosses. And the seed again is, you know, helicopter parenting around here and saying, no, don't you want to go do a level grind, sweetie? You can get to it.
All the other kids are doing it. You just stay in your room all day fighting bosses. Why don't you go outside? Take a D machine.
I feel like the D machine is the opposite, where you're staying in your room all day.
That's a good point.
This metaphor has fallen apart terribly.
It really has.
And yeah, Cecil falling over again, still having problems getting through this Mom Bomb at this point because she is punching and she is punching fast, and yeah, BadKarma is deleting Odin, so he's starting to catch up here at this point a little bit the longer this Mom Bomb takes. And the only real benefit to Stone Dingley here is that eventually BadKarma will have to face this as well. But if he takes a level grind, with what we know about whether or not this moon is going to pay off in terms of XP, he could actually pull ahead a little bit. Not like pull ahead in the race necessarily, but make up a good chunk of time just through a bit more efficient that way.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how BadKarma is going to approach approach this at this point. If he's going to do anything different from Dingley, this might be the first major point of divergence that we've really seen this whole race. So this will be very exciting to see.
Definitely. And again, we're seeing like, what was that, 48,000 experience? And hey, there's another objective out of that ribbon room. There is the Baron key.
Yeah, that is an objective, and that's 2 bosses that we haven't seen. How tempted are you to take that Baron key, leave the moon, and hope that one of those bosses is Antlion, or that key item is well, no, because we still haven't seen either Hide Nor Hair of the Adamant or Legend Sword. So yeah, it would just be one of the bosses. That would be a huge gamble, but I don't know that would pay off enough. I think you got to finish the moon when you're here, right?
Yeah, I think just through sheer force of having the pass alone, you're finishing this moon, because if you finish the moon, you can just never come back. And it's super unlikely you would finish the seed, because you would need Antlion to be one of those 3 bosses. You would need to go through all those cutscenes. You're only going to get 1 key item out of it, and you don't have either the Legend Sword or Adamant, so you can't finish that way unless it's like the pan that leads to, well, even the pan can't lead to both because K-Summon is off. So right, I think you gotta finish the moon right now.
Yeah, it's very, very good points. Lots of holy damage going on to Mylon Z here, which is unfortunate for him, being undead.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what you want to see if you're a Mylon Z at the White Spear Altar, where you're trying to guard what normally would be a weapon that's super effective against you, and then they already have it, and it's just like, well, why are you even here?
Goes down very, very quickly here. Get another key item check here for Dingley. Resetting out of that. That goes to show you just how much equipment we have, that you have Kane, you get a defense sword, and you reset out of it.
I was about to say, I'm kind of surprised that he reset out of it just for the XP alone in the hopes of trying to prevent it, but I think at this point in time, if he's resetting out of these bosses, he's kind of resigned himself to either saying, okay, I am already strong enough for the Z fight and will be by the end of the seed, or I am going to have to do a level grind as soon as I hit 10.
Yeah, right, you are. And not a lot of experience in that plague spot, so, not an enormous amount lost there. And here's Bahamut. And BadKarma is immediately going to the subterranean as well. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, skipping the Bahamut spot immediately.
The thing is that there has to be at least 2 item chains still available somewhere, because we have those 2 sort of, well, 3 endpoint key items, really. So I think this has to be something that is either an endpoint key item or leads to something else, because the package is an endpoint, the Crystal Sword, or the Legend Sword, and Adamant are both endpoints, which means you kind of need those 3 somewhere. And so this is a pretty high likely place to have something useful to us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a very good chance that this is going to be a big payoff here.
I don't think it's like 100% guaranteed, because it could just be the package, and unless the package has a demist behind it, it would be basically worthless at this point. But it has a very high chance of being something worthwhile. Like, if it's that Adamant, or if it's that Legend Sword, or if it's something that leads to it, then that's a pretty big thing, especially if, like, Baron ends up being the other half of Forge. Well, that was a real unfortunate outcome for that Bahamut.
Yeah, poor dragon. Well, that starts a quest.
Yeah, I gotta think that you go through Baron first here at this point in time, because it's part of the objective. You're already gonna be there. It's 3 different bosses, all of which could be Antlion, and we are running very rapidly out of bosses. I think there's only, what, 1, 2, 5 bosses left in the game at this point. So... Oh, Crystal Sword Altar still exists. I forgot the Crystal Sword Altar existed because I honestly thought he'd already done it.
Yeah, you usually see that first when people go top down, but a little bit of a hybrid play here from Dingley. So this will be an interesting check. It's still looking for that antlion, still looking for either half of Forge here. And well, there's also something.
That is deeply interesting. I think obviously you have to chase whatever this Demus drop is, because again, you have to have 3 endpoints at some point, and this guarantees that there is no value behind that package. So we know that Baron Key has to lead to something useful, Luca Key has to lead to something useful, and this Demist has to lead to something useful. It's just a question of which one is going to lead to the package at this point.
Yeah, and we do have a bonus boss, but it's going to be a little bit difficult here because all of our damage coming out is holy damage. Demist resists that and is a little bit punchy here as well. So this is not as free as maybe some of these other moon bosses have been.
Absolutely, it's almost a bit of a waste in this location because this location can be like sneakily nice to you in places. If you get like a high magic casting boss, this place is really strangely weak in terms of that. So at this point in time, it's kind of a strange situation where this really is a boss you want to see because it's potential progress, but it's also not the boss you want to see.
And BadKarma, on the other hand, did keep that defense sword, did keep the fight from the plague spot. So has kept that little bit of experience and is now going into the Mamban fight on his side. So we'll see if he is able to get through it any quicker than Dingley was able to.
Well, when he gets to this Demus fight, as chat just pointed out, that defense sword's going to be a big help because then you could equip that onto either your Cecil or Kane, probably your Kane in this case, and have him not swinging with the Holy Spear, which would be a pretty big benefit to you in getting through this Demist fight a bit faster.
Yeah, that is a very, very good point.
As was also pointed in chat, there's still the potential like Antlion at Kaipo for package, but I think if that's the case, you'll see Forge instead, because that means that I'm pretty sure that there's not a situation left in the seed where you consider checking package over the other 2 things at this point.
Yeah, since it's a matter of, am I going to check something that's bosses and key items or something that's just bosses? And as long as both key item and boss checks are up on that board as objectives, then yeah, you're going to want to take the thing that's going to offer both.
Yeah, and then even if like the package ends up being a character you would want at this point, it's like, who would you take? Maybe Edge, but who do you replace? Probably Palom, probably Tella, but then you have to get Edge kitted out, you have to get him a little bit to make sure he lives through the Z fight. I think at this point it's looking like a pretty low value to go into that package at the moment.
Yeah, so like if I had to do package, like it ends up, which is impossible at this point because we have to do 4 out of 5 of the objectives. But if I had to do package, and it did offer me Edge, I would take him just because I've got that spoon and I can throw it at the beginning of the Z fight for a quick burst of damage, help push into phase 2 a little sooner. But that would, yeah, you're absolutely right. That would be the only reason I'd consider taking a character at this point.
Yeah, and I think there's a good question of if you did that, who do you replace for it? Because you would think maybe Tella, but then if you replace Tella, you're losing one of those Berserk casts. And Rosa can do it by herself, but is it worth, trying to set up for that Palom to do some damage with Reflect when you don't want to grind him to nuke to begin with, when you could just hurl a spoon in that spot instead?
Yeah, I would probably get rid of the Palom, put the Edge in there. And well, there's our package, so maybe maybe it'll be on the table. Who knows? But yeah, at this point, I'm not looking at Palom getting high enough level to cast Nuke. This is just going to be the Kane, Cecil, Rosa awkward love triangle Zeromus fight.
Here is the big question of where do you go from here? Because we have, I'm trying to think, let's see, it's 2, 3, 4. There's about 8 boss locations left in the game at this point. So any boss that you look for is like a 1 in 8 chance of Antlion. I think you kind of have to take Baron at this point because it's a 3 in 8 chance of having an objective behind it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think routing in Mist on the way to Baron just to see what key item it's offering is also a good idea. It could have half of the Forge, which would make completing Baron even more desirable because that could have the other half of Forge. Could give you that Harp, which is 1 more boss check and a key item check if you happen to find the other half of Forge somewhere. So yeah, I'd route Mist in, but definitely go to Baron.
Yeah, I think the question of whether or not you go to Mist first is a question of whether or not you're likely to forget D-Mist, because D-Mist is not going to get you the end of this without getting something else too.
Yeah, precisely. And
I know I'd go to it first because I would forget entirely.
Exactly. As long as it's on my mind, I'm checking it. And the reward is the Legend Sword, so that is half of Forge. Baron looking really nice now because that could be go mode if we get a boss and the Adamant. So big pull there.
Chat also pointing out that my boss math is incorrect because we do know that first boss location is an Antlion, so it's actually 2 and 7 and not 3 and 8.
Right, you are. Yeah, it was Evil Wall, I believe, is sitting on the Baigan spot. If I can remember 90 minutes ago, which I'm kind of surprised if I could.
Yeah, it was definitely an Evil Wall because I remember a comment in chat of making jokes about the Evil Wall giving you a spoon, but it looks like Dingley might be heading down for this Luca cave. I think there's a world in which this makes a lot of sense because you can drop a save, run down, check what the key item is, and then just reset without fighting the boss if not necessary. Well, check the key item and the boss. So this is not actually as much of a time commitment as it seems because it's very easy to just reset out of it and not bother.
Yeah, I love the fact that the sealed cave exists because it's really brings to the forefront like how much your save files in Free Enterprise are a resource that you can utilize. And yeah, the scumming out of here, if there is nothing in here that you need, then that's it. Just reset out. And if you've saved at a better spot, then you're saving some time there. It is a long trek down, but the payoff is a boss and a key item. So a situation like that where you're looking for both, I definitely see a lot of value in at least checking and save scumming out if it doesn't work.
Definitely. And meanwhile, while we've been talking about all these possibilities in Stone Dingley's side, BadKarma has been making very good progress through this moon. I feel like his progress through this moon has actually been a little bit faster and smoother than Dingley's was, and he has been making up a bit of this time, so he's going to have this D-Mist fight down pretty quickly. He has that advantage of having the defense sword instead of having just holy weapons for his 2 big berserkers, so we'll see how much quicker this fight goes for him with that in mind.
Yeah, the one thing to remember, though, is BadKarma still has not done Cave Bahamut. So that is the only thing that remains after this. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That defense sword should make a significant difference here, not hitting that holy resistance that is afforded to D-Mist.
Definitely, but we are about to see what this Luca cave has. If stream doesn't break for a moment.
Don't right now, Dingley. This is too important. Oh, that's a twin harp. Oh,
you have to walk that out. You can't not walk that out.
Yeah, you can't leave that there, unfortunately. Now, if this is Antlion, this is still huge for Dingley. No, it is the gauntlet.
You don't have to walk that out anymore. No, you don't. You don't have to. Sorry.
Yeah, no thank you, says Dingley. I'm gonna go open this door and let's try our luck in our home city here.
Well, if this doesn't end up paying off, if you get to the bottom of Baron, there's no antlion sitting on the throne or sitting on the true throne here, and this ends up being just the last zonk in the pool, then yeah, you have hard required alt gauntlet at the bottom of sealed cave gating the rest of this seed.
Yeah, Apex Corvid in chat saying it best. Antlion at Harp with Adamant is now the new dream.
I mean, it's either that or Antlion on the Giant, because I feel like you go back down and you do that alt gauntlet before you check the Giant. So there's like 3 different places where Antlion could be, where I think it would be the last objective you would complete out of these 3.
Right, you are.
I think what's also important is this could be, you know, the chain of nightmares that leads to nothing, which is not likely, but it is a possibility. And if BadKarma goes down and checks Luca Cave and ends up walking out that Twin Harp a lot quicker, then that's gonna be big. Also pointed out that Antlion in package is another possibility that's less likely to get checked than going back down for that gauntlet, I feel.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where we're running out of real options and it's only troll options that remain. But no, there's Antlion. That is go mode for Dingley. Baron having all of the juicy objectives after all.
Definitely, and this is, again, it's been such a weirdly linear seed too, where it's like double required Baron at the end of the moon, which was mostly haunted except for just a couple different things here that brought you like Legend Sword and Adamant, and that's pretty much it. And it's like, you know, maybe not mostly haunted is correct, but a lot of those moon bosses were not worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. And if this Baron trash can ends up having Adamant, then that's only going to secure the linearity of this seed. There is really only one critical path to be taken the whole time.
But here's the question in Dingley's case is, are you confident that you can do a Z fight right now?
I'd have to get another look at his screen. I didn't check what HP values his fighters and Rosa are at. But as long as, you know, I'm in the 2,000 range on them, I'd go for it. Especially since I have the pass.
Yeah, and that leads to the secondary question of what do you take if it's not good enough? Behemoth just mentioned as a possibility. Doors are a possibility at this point too, if you wanted to go with that. So there's plenty of ways to get experience at this point. So I don't think it'll be a problem if he thinks he's not ready for it, but it is a question of whether or not he thinks he's ready for it. And there's the Adamant.
Oh, linear seed confirmed. That's so is he gonna actually go forge it? I think he might actually be going to forge it.
Might as well. And that also means that Luca Cave leads to Twin Harp, which leads to one of Pan and Rat Tail, that then leads to nothing.
Yeah. So good play on Dingley's part, abandoning that Luca Cave, finding that critical path here, getting go mode, and a rare 5 out of 5 completion here. Ooh, I want that life staff. Yeah, I think that's probably what he's going for. I'm getting some ribbons too, okay. That doesn't want the light staff.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's not the great prize you're looking for. It's an okay prize, but it's not the big giant prize you're looking for here.
Yeah. Still probably the one thing you can get here that might be worth swapping the crystal sword out for. But you already got the crystal sword. It's a small upgrade compared to what something else might have been.
Yeah, and then the double downside of it ends up being that you can't just give that crystal sword to Kane, which is what you're kind of hoping for.
Yeah.
In terms of that forge right there.
It's one of those things where the Crystal Sword is enough. The Lightbringer is just stupid on top of it. Looks like we're gonna crack an egg. So yeah, to answer a question in chat, we recently had a new flag called a couple of new flags called Sea Hero and one called Super Forge. What Super Forge does is it will give you a random item from one of the epilogues of Final Fantasy IV Advance. The idea being that instead of just always getting a good weapon for Cecil, you'll instead get a good weapon that could be good for everybody. And the Sea Hero is a completely sort of new mode to play where, among a number of other things that benefit your starting character, the Super Forge will always be a weapon for your starting character. So, yeah, it kind of changes the dynamic of, what the Forge really has to offer, besides just being something Cecil can use.
Definitely. And so kind of the hope here in this very, very specific case of the seed being the nicest seed in the history of the world outside of being linear is we were kind of, in this case, hoping for one of the ones that you can get for Cecil that Kain could also equip in the hopes of getting him a bit more power. But it looks like Dingley is just going to go for it.
Yeah, I don't blame him with the sort of equipment that he's got. Just so much power on those characters that raw levels really aren't as important. But as we go to the moon here and face off against Zeromus, I think there is something that needs to be asked. Nth, would you like the honors?
I would absolutely love the honors. There's over 500 different options since we can't move this particular boss around. So when that crystal gets thrown, we will answer the one most important question of any seed: whose butt are we going to kick this afternoon?
And kicked it will be. Very excited to see the sort of damage numbers that Cecil's going to be putting out here.
Oh yeah,
just shy of 1900 HP on Rosa. That's a little scary. You can get a high roll Big Bang that could take her out, but generally going to be safe, especially with the amount of damage going out. Shouldn't see much in the way of Big Bangs. Cecil and Kain, very comfortable HP for them. This should be a relatively easy fight.
It's one of those ones that should be a victory unless the stars align against him. So never count out anyone in this Z fight here at this point in time. And it looks like we've got Diablomus.
Not even death can save you from this Z fight.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at him. He looks just very happy to be here.
I would say definitely cute. Definitely a cute butt, but all butts are cute in my mind.
Absolutely. I'd 100% agree. But anyways, as sort of like touching on a little bit, is the thing about the Zeromus fight is that unless you're in like 4000 HP power overwhelming stages, it's never a guarantee. So we'll see how this goes here, because I can see like a world where this ends up going wrong just if the wrong damage rolls happen. So this is definitely still something exciting to watch here.
Yeah, exactly. Never count out Big Bang. It can, it's several attack rolls at once added together. So, if the dice come up big for Zeromus, it can take you down. No matter how prepared you are, it's always a wild card. You've always got to be ready to deal with, a character that you didn't expect to go down to actually, eat Stardust. So there's never a free Zeromus fight, I like to say.
Absolutely. And in this case, that first one's always going to be not particularly threatening. The question is there going to be enough damage coming out to even get to that second Big Bang? Because this Cecil is doing some work. Kain's doing some work too, but Cecil's definitely doing some work.
Yeah, and then of course the big concern is making sure the timing is right so that you don't get that dreaded combo platter of a Big Bang right into a media where you just don't have enough damage to push him quite enough. That can be really deadly if you've got your characters berserked and your white mage takes some bad rolls there.
Absolutely. And back over on BadKarma's side real quick, we have seen him get through that Cave Bahamut check, so he should be on his way back to Earth at this point in time. We'll see where he goes from there. If he just goes straight to Baron, straight through Baron, he will be in go mode himself, so he will not be too far behind getting into this fight at this point. He really just needs to get back down there, land where he wants to, and then figure out where he's going from there.
Yeah, not completely out of this race just yet. If Stone Dingley takes an unfortunate wipe here and BadKarma goes immediately to Baron and books it through, he can be right back in this race. So do not count him out just yet. And yes, is going right to Baron, so he is on the right path.
Absolutely. He's not even going to go down and check the Luca key, and that was kind of my main fear for him at this point, that he might be tempted to go down to the Luca key and then decide, you know what, I have to walk out this heart. I'll take the gauntlet, chase the heart. That would have been like the nightmare scenario in this case. So he's going to dodge that little bit of a potential problem for him there, and he should be right on his way.
Yep, nothing in this Baron path is going to put up a challenge for BadKarma. He will be in go mode here momentarily. Stone Dingley's managing to keep... well... No reflect left on that panel. I'm going to take a little bit of an electroshock to the face there, and that big bang is going to be the end of Tello. Rose is a little low on HP, is able to survive that, has about 200 left. Kane does go down, though, taking damage to the HP sap, and the crystal going out late. That's going to be a counter nuke. This could be very dangerous for Dingley.
Very, very dangerous, and it does take out Cecil, which I don't want to say that's a good prize in this case, but it's definitely better than the Rosa going down. As long as he can get someone back up, get some heals going out, this could still be fixable at this point.
Yeah, Rosa's up. Rosa's going to get Kane up here, still low on HP here. Going to want to get some healing out before... I think we're still on... No, we are going to take a nuke here. Kane's going to go back down. No, we're going to get a free turn here because he is going to take a shake, so Rosa's going to get a chance to stabilize. But he's going to have to take a lot of time to stabilize. Probably not going to be able to put much damage out here before the next big bang.
I'm a bit concerned about him not getting these heals out at this point in time in favor of getting all these life potions going. Might still have time to get that heal off, but this is a little bit scary right now. He's going to just drop an elixir onto Cecil, which should make sure he lives through this no matter what. Can still be in recovery mode after that.
And here's the Cure 4 to help stabilize here. And, pointing out, yeah, that Rosa still has a heroin robe on. She can't heal the party. I mean, I should qualify that. She can heal, but she is not going to be topping people off with Cure 4 unless it is single targeted. That's devastating.
It is, but it might still be fixable. I don't know how much health this boss even has left at this point in time. If he gets this next Cure 4 off, Cure 4 is an instant cast, so unless that Big Bang is already queued, and there it goes. We'll see how this ends up going for him here, but it should knock out everyone but Cecil, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unless it is... Ooh, that is, yeah, decent enough roll. Still 400 HP on Cecil. Is he berserked right now?
He is berserk, so we're going to have to wait for that black hole to come out, knock that berserk off, or we have to hope that Cecil can do enough damage before he runs out of HP.
Oh gosh, this is nerve-wracking. There's Meteo. Cecil dodges! No damage! This is his chance! Is he gonna do enough damage? One more hit should do it!
Oh, not quite.
And he's got it! He's got it! Oh my goodness, Dingley pulling through with a clutch Cecil, one turn away from devastation, pulls it out in exciting fashion, and is going to be moving on to the round of 32. Oh my gosh, my heart right now.
I'll admit I was totally pessimistic about that. I did not think he was gonna pull it out. So GG's to him with a time of 146.58, moving on to the round of 32 with an excellent, very exciting finish there.
Whew. Yeah, and we did have some stream hiccups on Dingley's side, so just to point out, the time that we've got put up there on the screen is his actual time. It is a little lower than what was seen because his stream did freeze a few points, but that is his actual official time with the race spot there. And yeah, I hope we can get Dingley in here so we can talk about that race, because that was a good one.
I'm still like letting my mind catch up to that fight right now.
And there he is, Stone Dingley. Are we gonna have to add a warning to people with heart conditions to the VOD here for that Z fight?
Oh man, that's I got through it just fine, but my heart was going a mile a minute there.
When the Meteor came out and there was no animation, was that just like the biggest relief in the world for you?
Oh yeah, I absolutely. Again, so glad I don't have my mic on for these, because you just would have heard like, yes! Oh my god!
I think you had that commentary side. Don't worry, we got you covered there. So tell us a little bit about that scene, because it was, as much as it had you running around everywhere, there was really only one kind of critical path the entire time.
Exactly. That was so glad that the crystal sword was found early on, or otherwise this would have been a very different seed. But otherwise, I just felt like, oh man, I hope that I'm just optimizing everything I can, because there's clearly only one path here, and I know I've lost time in a couple places, and you just can't afford to give up time to opponents this good, you know?
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting question that I had, is you went down to the bottom of Sealed Cave, you checked that boss, you saw the Twin Harp there, and then saw the Gauntlet. Is there a situation in which you would have considered taking that Gauntlet instead of resetting out at that point in time?
I was thinking about this. If it was the Pan, or if the boss had been anything but Alt Gauntlet, I almost certainly would have walked it out. But you see Twin Harp, you see that Alt Gauntlet, and it's like the seed is just telling you this is gonna be a huge waste of your time.
Yeah, definitely. We figured out that based off of that being the only chain left, that Twin Harp would have led to the Pan and Rat Tail as well, so it's definitely very good that you dodged it there.
And, worst comes to worst, and it was required, both of us would have to do it, so I wouldn't feel so bad.
One of the things we were kind of mentioning throughout the race were the grind options that were available at any time. And, in the end, not really necessarily needing to commit yourself to any one grind. Was there ever a temptation to do something like maybe slingshot your mages, or, do a D machine, anything in those lines that you were just kind of putting off? And what was kind of your approach there?
I was definitely leaning towards doing a D-Machine Slingshot, because I had that ready on that Palom, but once I found that Crystal Sword, I figured I'm definitely at least doing hybrid strats, so I can put off doing a D-Money till later, maybe. And then it just turned out that I was able to get through without having to do much grinding. That last Siren put Cecil at exactly 28 agility. I figured, you know what, let's roll the dice here. Hopefully I get lucky, and boy, did I get lucky.
Well, the thing about 28 agility, Cecil, is maybe it's a little lower than you'd feel comfortable with, but when you've got a Lightbringer, not really much concern there is on the damage front.
Right.
Was there any hope that you might have pulled one of the other weapons so Kane would have it?
That was pretty much the only reason I went there. Just maybe it's the Gigantax, and that's be really nice, but you can't feel bad getting what is essentially Cecil's version of Eddie's Spoon. It's just, oh man.
So yeah, with this, you've secured your position in the round of 32. You will be moving on. How are you feeling about your next round? Because I believe this is going to be the round that you drafted yourself adjacent to, correct?
That's right.
So what is that looking like for you? What's kind of your approach going forward?
My approach so far is just to try not to overthink it. Just keep having fun with them. Don't over practice. Don't over stress. I do it anyway, so I'm going to might as well try not to, at least. I'm sure that every single match from here on, from this match onward, is going to be equally difficult. There's going to be a lot of places that luck comes into play, and I just hope that I get the same kind of luck that I got today.
Definitely. That's the kind of luck everybody wants to have going forward, I think, especially there at the very end. So any final thoughts on this seed or this match overall? Going the distance here with BadKarma?
All I want to say is GG to BadKarma for putting up a good race. If anyone didn't see what happened with our second race, it was a heck of a slog, and BadKarma absolutely earned that win. That was rough, and I'm glad it went the distance, and it was a good match.
Well, thanks so much, Stone Dingley. Was an absolute pleasure watching this race. This was a lot of fun, and really looking forward to seeing you going forward in round of 32 and possibly beyond. So thanks so much, and appreciate you being coming in for an interview here today.
All right. Thank you all.
Take care. So that was a Stone Dingley taking the win today over BadKarma, winning 2 out of 3 in this round of 64, advancing to the next round, and playing some Fisherman's Horizon from Final Fantasy VIII for us.
Yep, and definitely very well-run race from both of our runners today. And, it's as we see BadKarma going through this fight right now, he's having a lot easier of a time with this actual Z fight. I don't believe he has that heroin robe on the Rosa. Nope, she's hitting for full, so it's a bit safer on his end. He should be through it very, very quickly, and in the end, it really just ended up coming down to those little bit of a rough time on the hook route, a little bit of a rough time with that Wyvern here.
And it's not as though this was a sort of seed where if you're having a rough time in a fight, you can back off and do something else because of, just how linear it ended up. So unfortunately, it's just one of those seeds where banging your head against something is really what you have to do. And just not working out in BadKarma's favor here today. But other than that, ran a fantastic race and is looking to end it in style here with a very, very solid Z fight.
Yeah, and I think it kind of makes me think that there's kind of usually, there's space in between, but there's like a range that seeds in this randomizer can fit on, especially in these flags. And I want to say that, some you can win by sort of picking the right options and just everything plays out for you. But with how linear this was, some seeds are like this where it's just a matter of can you chip through that wall quickly enough.
I think we might have lost footage here. Well, I'll try to get that back to you as soon as we can here.
Yep, just some minor technical issues. That's why live restreaming is always a fun and exciting time, because you never know what little tiny things are going to come up like this, but we'll get that back to you as quickly as possible. That being said, he was having such an easy time getting through that with the party he had. I think he should be fine.
And, while we're mentioning that, big shout outs to behind the scenes here. Reckless Charlie handling the tracking, and that's why you can see all those lovely buttons getting lit up there, making sure that everybody knows where our runners stand. And of course, Dathis handling the restream, making sure everything is coming over to our end, running smoothly. And yes, back just in time to see that Diablomus is down. BadKarma is through. We'll get an official time here in a moment, but he has finished this seed. Unfortunately finishing behind Stone Dingley, but I believe he is joining us here. GG's BadKarma, really, really well-run race, just a little bit of difficulty on that Wyvern fight.
Yeah, that Wyvern was definitely not my friend today. That Blizzard start and then just couldn't get the lives going, and yeah, it was a rough time for sure.
Yeah, it's really one of those things where rando's gonna rando. Stone Dingley ran into the fight and was able to survive with Rosa and Cecil. Rosa had like 80 HP left or something. It was so close, and just having those two people was able to recover from that. But it's just the way the dice fall sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you can't be upset about that. That's a tough fight in that spot, especially with an opening blizzard and a decent MP spot. Like there was a small part of me is like, you should probably leave this and come back. I'm like, oh man, that would just not be that great. So I'm glad I got through it. Stone Dingley and I had a tough seed in the second race, so had to be able to overcome it.
Definitely. And the question I want to ask you is sort of about your routing when you came back from the moon a little bit. What led you to just go straight through Baron and not check Luca Cave at all, not bother checking Demus, just head straight on through it at that point?
So I forgot to kill Demus. And it was two bosses, so we knew Evil Wall was there. It was just, it felt like it was the right play, just looking for bosses there. Having not seen Antline anywhere, it just seemed like a better play than going all the way down to the sealed cave and coming all the way back up. So seeing in the spoiler log it was Twin Harp, and obviously running into Antline, that was the right play. But yeah, I totally forgot about the Demus stuff.
Yeah, and it definitely ended up being the right choice for you there too, because we know from our perspective, having seen the Demus check, the Demus actually ended up being the Legend Sword. And so based off of that, we know that had you checked that, the Twin Harp would have been just a path that leads to more things that then leads to nothing. So you definitely made the right choice there. And I think that was one of the things that really interested me watching your routing through the seed, is that you had a very, very efficient route once you got through that Wyvern fight.
I tried. I did have a very, very gut feeling when I pulled that Baron key. Is like, I could be in go mode right now. I should leave. And I didn't follow it because I made the smart play of checking some more. And I was not going to do a D machine, since I was down in the moon. I was just trying to get 10 key items and hopefully get some of those bosses. And yeah, it just it just didn't fell, and that gut feeling was, eating at me the entire time. And then so that probably played into why I went to Baron first as well.
For sure. And sort of speaking on that D machine point, were you ever at any point tempted to go and do like an actual sort of level grind instead of what you ended up doing, which is mostly going through the moon bosses and then going down and just cracking an egg just to get that last bit of HP up?
If that was not a physical fighter on the dais, I was going to D-machine.
That makes sense. Because
Yeah.
that cane, especially with all like the physical gear that was lying around, just kind of swung everything from this is looking magical to this is looking brutish.
Yeah, and if that had been an edge, I would have taken edge and done the same thing. If that had been, Kane, Yang, I might have considered doing it. But no, since it was a Kane or an edge, I wasn't going to do a D-machine in that. If it had been anything else, probably would have went and did it though.
Well, you put on up one heck of a fight, bringing one of the highest seeded people in the tournament to 3 matches is nothing to sneeze at. So even though it's just the first round, you still have done incredibly. Any thoughts or feelings on your performance in this tournament, and what you're looking forward to in the future with Free Enterprise?
I'm looking forward to doing more commentary now, doing more events. Obviously, I do love the tournament. This one's been great. It's been a really tough, challenging flag set, which I've really enjoyed. For me, just looking back at game 1 and the other 2 seeds as well, is I could point to where my mistakes were. Like usually it was some weird rough wipes that cost me a ton of time. So if I can tighten my game up a little bit, I feel like I could have at least been a lot closer in this one. Maybe even pulled out a win. Just I did kind of catch the end of Stone Dingley's fight. If the RNG goes a different way, this could have been a lot closer, and maybe he could have pulled it out.
Yeah, definitely. In no way were you out of this race by at any point, and that's kind of the exciting thing about Free Enterprise. Just like you said, is this was still anybody's race up until the end. So thanks for sticking through it. Thanks for being rebroadcast here and coming in and talking to us. Any final thoughts you wanted to share?
No, thank you, the Restream team. You guys are awesome as always. I enjoy working with all of you. Dathis, thanks for this exciting seed. Yeah, we'll go with that word. Reckless Charlie for tracking, Smape D, Nth. I'll look forward to watching this back and see what you guys have to say about it. And otherwise, thanks to everybody watching.
All right,
Thank you very much.
You have a good night.
Take care. That was BadKarma's tournament journey ends today, but not without putting up a one heck of a fight. Really fantastic racer. Make sure to follow both of our racers. They do a lot of work here, both on the restream end and doing just performing on here and on their channel. So definitely send them some love. But wow, what a race here tonight, Enth. How about it?
I'm still in like a state of shock just from the end of that Z fight there, because again, I did not think that was going to be a clear, and then it was. So, just moments like that are what we come here for these races for, because if it weren't for just those moments of sort of mix of excitement and terror, this wouldn't be anywhere near as fun to show up for.
Exactly. And speaking of exciting races, we are not done quite yet. We have another elimination match for you over on Free Enterprise that we'll be sending you to. Baka Shinobi versus Slippery, 1 game apiece, both fighting for their tournament lives here. One person's going to move on. They have just started this race. They're only about 7 minutes in, so we're going to send you over there for some more Free Enterprise action. But for the rest of the team here, Reckless Charlie on the tracking, Dathis on the restreaming, and Enth is my co-commentator. My name is Smapey, and thank you so much for watching us today.